Hello, everyone. It's an honor and privilege to be here, and I have someone so precious with me, a precious one from my colleagues and from my spaces and places that are sacred to my heart. And this is my beloved Ani Tenzin Lhadron. And thank you, Ladhron, for joining us. I'm so grateful that you're here, and what a holy privilege and honor. And Annie is a nun. She's been a Tibetan Buddhist nun for more than 24 years. So she's been in the Rimé tradition. She's also a family and marriage and family therapist and counselor, and she's worked with a lot of different organizations around mental health, community mental health, especially on the East, both the East and the West Coast. She's also practiced the ancient art of chaplaincy, the beauty way of assisting others in a sacred manner. And she's practiced chaplaincy in residency from the Institute for Health and for Healing, and also the California Pacific Medical Center as a Buddhist sati for chaplaincy. She's also studied Diamond Heart for 12 years and is a PhD of philosophy and religion, Asian comparison studies. And she's also a protege of Angeles Arian and worked with Angeles very closely for 15 years. And so I want to welcome you, Ladhron, and it's my holy privilege to have you here and to our medicine talks, our real medicine talks. And I always like to open with a prayer, and so I would like to open in that way again, because I know that one of the things that that I've heard from my elders and from the mentors and from the other shamans that I know globally, this is really the way that we're going to be able to make a difference, is through our prayers and our meditations. So, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're with me. This is so great. I'm so excited. This is so exciting. Great spirit. Creator, creatrix, mother, father, God, all that is not. Kali, Amati, Parvati, Ganesha, Kuan Yin, Kuan Pung, Christ, Ava Maria, Naga, Kanya, power animals, allies, Mohammed, Buddha, Allah, Okami, Hanaku, Hanaye, Yom, great and beautiful mystery. I thank you for all of the gifts that you have given us, the gift of life, and I thank the ancestors, the spirits of land and place, and the ancient ones for our bodies. I thank you also, and I send special prayers and extend my prayers to my sisters and brothers in North Dakota and also in South Dakota, but knowing that there is much that is happening there, and especially for my sister Marie Edwards, and for Kaminila, and some of my beloved ones who are on the front lines doing the work, and of course my beloved Carrie Rose, and who's here in Seattle, and Cedar, and Becca, and all of the human beings who are making such an impact and really serving others. I pray for them, and I pray for all of us, Great Spirit, and I also pray for the medicine men and the medicine women and the shamans, and all of the monks and the nuns, and those who are in chaplaincy, and that we are being called on in a completely unique and different way at this time. And I ask that you will bless us with the ability to be hollow little bones and to serve in the way that you would have us serve. Thank you, Mystery. Bless our talk today and always. Aho. Amen.
May it be so.
Thank you, Shar. And what a blessing to be with you here today. And I would ask, I decided to name this talk "Real Medicine," and it's something that had been in my mind for a long time. I've been thinking about real medicine and how medicine is different for some of us than it is for others. And then I noticed that in my travels and in my global work that medicine really is different for everyone. And so something that is maybe healing for one person is not really healing for another person. And so I wanted to open our hearts to the conversation with you. And I just wanted to ask a little bit about what is real medicine for you.
Mhm. It's a great question. It's actually a really important question to ask. And before I answer, I just want to say thank you, Char, for all of the incredible work that you do in the world so consistently, and for inviting me here today. And we have great conversations offline. And so I just really want to thank you for inviting me online for a conversation, because this is a first for me. So it's really my honor and privilege to be here, but also to support you in your work. So thank
Oh,
you. And
thank
it'll be fun to see what unpacks in a conversation, because we do have some lively ones.
you.
So um boy, what is real medicine? Well, I think we have so many different ideas about what medicine is, from either a Western view of medicine that's much more grounded in pharmaceutical industry. And then we have many other medicines around the world that are much more ancient, the herbal lore, storytelling, um, laying on of hands,
Mhm.
different types of healing around the world that's much more ancient. And for me personally, medicine has, I was thinking about this after we checked in yesterday, and medicine has really changed over the years for me of what my understanding is.
Mm.
And I didn't realize that until much later. And I think it's because as we go through our lives, we are healing and growing and being broken open
Oh, yeah.
throughout our lives in very, very different ways. And then out of that process, we learn what healing is, you know.
Wow. Ladhron, that's powerful.
Well, it's just something, because I think it changes over time. And the biggest lesson for me is that, and especially later in life, is we're not in charge of our healing.
That's so great. That's so true.
We're not,
Yeah,
I mean,
true. Why not? Yes.
all we can do is set up the causes and conditions.
Mm.
I think on a practical level, we can eat the right foods, get the right exercise, do all those kinds of things that we're told to do every day. But when we're healing a broken heart,
Mm.
you can't see the broken heart. And so we have ideas about what can heal that, whether it's therapy or
Mm.
spiritual practices, or talking to a good friend, or spending time in nature. We have a sense of what that is, but the heart has its own unfolding process and healing process. And in order to deeply heal, I think we have to learn how to listen to the heart, and it will tell us what it needs. And in order to do that, we have to allow ourselves to be silent. And it's not I don't think it's a one size fits all. I don't think it's a recipe, but it's a real deep allowing process. So that's one example of healing. And there's psychological healing. Sometimes we go through traumas in life, and
Mm.
for lack of a better word, you could just say our brains are broken.
Our brains are broken.
Our hearts get broken, our brains get broken, our bodies get broken. But what that means is just that it's not functioning. We're not functioning optimally.
Mhm.
I think our body and our hearts and our souls and our minds all have their own languages and their own rhythms and their own um, ways of understanding and teaching us. And I think that's what a lot of the older traditions, the mystical traditions, the indigenous traditions had embedded in their cultures. And I think right now, I mean, we were talking a little bit yesterday about what's happening in the world today and how people are really suffering. And we've dropped into a new dream.
Oh, I love that. That's powerful.
Yeah, the dreams that we lived, the dreams that we had for ourselves or our families or our children or our futures, collectively, we all had our individual and collective dreams, and suddenly we've all been dropped into a new dream that's unfamiliar for everybody. And it's a collective dream with a lot of individual impact. And we don't know what the recipe, we don't want to find a recipe to fix it, and we can't. We,
Right.
we have to call upon our tools and resources and really feel our way into a whole new way of being and living. And I think the responsible thing to do is use this time to focus on healing where you need it and prepare for whatever's next, whatever's coming down the road. So that's kind of some of the thoughts that I've had about what is healing, what is real healing. And what is real healing is, I think, healing that takes us into um, the deeper parts of our nature,
Mm.
whether it's our gifts, our talents, whether it's underdeveloped parts of ourselves, whether it's our shadow, whether it's the things that we envision. But it's those parts of ourselves that are needing to be integrated. And I think that's what healing is. It's really integration. We don't leave anything out.
Mm.
So, and who knows, in a few years that might change and I might come up with a new
That's
So
really,
what do you think real healing is? What is your understanding or definition?
thank you for asking, Ladhron. You know, with the real medicine, um, and the true healings that I've seen, it's really interesting. On the last live talk that I did, there was one of the physicians from the clinic, Tara Shelby, and then also a psych nurse, my beloved and amazing ally, and another practitioner there, Christina Pike at the Village Medicine, were both here. And I remember thinking about that, and we were also talking about how we like when we work together, it is astonishing.
Mm.
You know, when we collaborate, it's as though, you know, Tara can do her beautiful work with a patient, and then, you know, and that work is, it's physical, but it's also, you know, she has a joie de vivre that is just like, you know, I think that is real medicine, like just to have like that joy for life, and that, you know, delight, but also the ability to empower others in such
Yeah.
a really elegant way. And Christina really has the gift of perception, and she can perceive what is happening emotionally, and really restore the mind. Like you were talking about, she can heal the broken mind, and then I can work with the patients on the spirit. And so, you know, as the director of the spiritual care program, that's my work, is really to see, you know, what has broken this person's spirit, like what has dispirited them, what is, you know, how come they have that feeling of emptiness, or you know, disenchantment.
Yes, yes, yes.
And so, but when when those three things come together, when the body and the spirit and the mind, you know, come together, then it feels to me like the apex is always the heart.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
You know, so in the travels that I've had the holy privilege of traveling to, and being with many other medicine people and shamans in the world, and one of the things that I've noticed is that we're all about the heart. Like
Yeah.
everyone's always, you know, so you know, Javier de la Rosa, he is an incredible medicine person, and he speaks of this. He speaks of the heart, and also the ways that the heart is really the one that calibrates all of the other important things. And
Mm.
Araceli Dominguez speaks to this, and of course the other medicine people. Michael Cross, my brother Michael Cross speaks to this, and many of the other medicine people that I know. And so it's really beautiful and really powerful, to to see what is happening with the heart and the consciousness. Like the heart has its own consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've developed over the last, I guess it's been 20 years now, is something called the consciousness of the heart, where you literally take your consciousness and place it in the heart of another person. And it's about a 2-year training program. And I want to teach people to do it because I just want, I want to give all my medicine away. Like that's what I think medicine is for, is to give it away to other people who can use it in a good way. But what it developed is this ability to go into someone's heart and really look around in all the chambers and see what their dreams, their hopes, their wishes, desires, fantasies, whatever it is that they have. And really it's dreams and desires.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that, and once, and I do these sessions with folks where we do the consciousness of the heart work, and after someone knows their dream, Ladhron, oh my God, like if they can just remember a dream from when they were 8 years old in their garden playing, or if they can remember a dream when they were 15, that they had a dream of playing an instrument, or they can remember a dream that they had of, oh, I want to be, I'll see sometimes different images of, I've seen someone like on a ship on the water, and it's like, oh my gosh, you have this dream of your heart dreams of being on the water. And, they're like, yes, I really wanted to be, marine biologist when I was a child. And it's like, well, the dream is still in you. Why are you working at a job you don't love? Like, why are you not engaged with your heart?
Yeah. And
I think that's the medicine, Ladhron. How do we engage with our hearts? And also the ancient technologies. Like my Honka mom, Barbara Means Adams, my birth mom also, they both taught me a lot about real medicine and around ceremony and around the different times of life and the different seasons and the 4 directions. And I think everyone can benefit from looking at the east every day and the rising sun and that brilliance that comes.
Yeah. Well, there were a couple of things that you said that as I was listening to you, when you were describing the colleagues that you work with and that kind of collaboration, and what came to mind for me is the importance of, if you have a particular issue, to go to the appropriate healer.
Oh, yes.
In other words, don't go to, you don't go to a therapist to mend your broken bone.
Right.
So if you need surgery, you want to go to the right place to get the right medicine.
Right medicine person. Go to the person with the right medicine, right?
Exactly, because each of those people are trained to speak a particular language in a way. So a surgeon or a doctor, or a bone setter, you were talking to me about bone setters, or traditional peoples might have a particular way of working with the body. And they understand that language, whether it's a Western scientific language or whether it's an oral tradition language that's been handed down through a family line. They have a language to understand what the issue is and what the medicine is. And that's so appropriate, because I think sometimes people go to the wrong person for the wrong medicine. So
and that probably
yeah, go ahead. What are you going to say?
Well, I was thinking that would cause some suffering. Like I think Thomas More had said that all healing begins with the soul.
Right. Oh, that brings up something else I was going to say. In Tibetan tradition and in many traditions, the heart is the seat, the heart center.
Yes.
Is the seat of the consciousness.
Yes, that's exactly it.
In Western tradition, we associate the heart with we associate the mind and the consciousness with our head, which oftentimes leaves us thinking a lot and thinking our reality, but we cut ourselves off because we don't understand that our whole physiology holds our consciousness. And just as you were talking about the heart as a particular center, in many traditions, there's the belly center is the seat of intuition.
Mhm.
Different centers throughout the body that again have their own languages. And
I
when you,
love that. I love that. That they have their own languages. I love that, Ladhron.
well, and then you were talking about the language of dreaming, you know,
Yeah.
the language of a dream or a vision is a particular symbolic language. And so sometimes we can get an idea of what something might mean, looking up in a book of symbols or something. But each person, I think, develops their own inner language, their own inner dictionary regarding their dreams. So it's important not to take something outside, as you know,
Yeah.
and then define your reality based on, one size fits all. The symbolism for some person, like a boat on the ocean, might be very different for somebody else.
True.
So yeah. Anyway, I jumped in there, but there was some of the things you'd said earlier. I thought, oh, there's little parts I want to tease out. We were talking about a quote from Thomas More, and what was that quote you were talking about?
Yeah, how he talks about how it's that all healing begins with the soul.
Yeah.
And so when we're looking at the soul, and if we think about how all healing begins with the soul, then I was thinking a little bit about Angie's work. We were talking yesterday about her fourfold way work, and talking about the shadow, and that we need to face our shadow
Right.
in order to really, face, embrace, and transform what we're experiencing now. And I believe it was the shadows
The healer.
the healer. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I wanted to speak to that, and also just to we'd also talked about suffering, and that we do need to face and embrace, and work with our suffering.
Yeah. Well, I'll speak to suffering from my tradition, and maybe you can speak about the shadow side of the healing and the four addictions that Angie talked about. So in Buddhism, we look at all of basically being alive means you're suffering.
Ladhron, I'm having a hard time hearing you. Maybe
To be alive is to suffer. And it seems kind of morbid. People think that religion is kind of a downer.
oh no.
Oh, okay, that doesn't sound like a lot of fun. But it's really about the reality of, we suffer when we're born. We suffer when we become ill. We suffer as we age, and we suffer as we die. And so it's not so much looking at that as a downer, as looking at this is a reality of our human condition. The reason that we suffer is because we really want things to stay permanent. We want happiness all the time, or we want what we want when we want it. We want our meals on time, our food, clothing, shelter on time. We want our partner, our parents, our lovers, our children to be who we want them to be. And when they're not, our reality gets shaken. When our reality gets shaken, we become attached. We get upset, or we feel disappointed or sad or anxious or depressed or whatever. We're human beings. We have a lot of variety of how we respond to our suffering or the suffering of others. So at this point in time, there's a tremendous amount of suffering because suddenly everyone is aware of how impermanent life is and how unpredictable it is, and the uncertainty of how do we know who's sick or how do we know what to do when we get sick. And so we're all looking outside for guidance a lot. We're looking for help and support, and for a variety of reasons, politically or otherwise, that those answers are not there in the way that we want them right now. So as a result, we almost have suffering upon our suffering. So the antidotes to that is to, in my tradition, is to realize that, to really get that this is the way it is, but how do I respond to the suffering?
Oh, that's so
Part of the response is to cultivate patience and compassion for ourselves and other people, patience with our own boredom or our own anxiety about having to shelter in place every day. Um, Maybe a sort of a self-discipline about how do we create a new routine for ourselves when our old routine is, topsy-turvy, or how do we create safety for our children?
Mm.
How do we embody love and compassion, generosity of spirit? How do we use all of what we've been given in the past in terms of our own tools or practices, or our own character development? How do we show up differently at this time that shows that we can handle this? I mean, the reality is there's a lot happening, but for most people, they're not directly impacted. But do they check out? do,
Right.
do they over engage in drama? Do they, so how do we respond when the world doesn't meet our expectations, or it's unpredictable or uncertain? And do we add to our own suffering or others' suffering? So that's kind of, so I want to give you a chance to talk about for it, because that's the shadow side of the suffering. It's not having compassion for the human condition, or our own vulnerability, our own not knowing. We don't have all the answers. Can we tolerate not having a perfect world? Can we take a risk to trust and rely on other people? How reliable are we? It doesn't have to be hard.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be hard. It feels hard. And that's not to say that it's not painful and difficult and challenging for people who've lost their jobs or lost family members or are in danger of losing a home. So not to say that that's simple or easy. I mean, that would be beyond rude and insulting. It's
Right.
inhumane. It's inhumane to negate the suffering of other people because I'm not suffering.
Right.
That's just selfish,
Exactly. So. Yes. And Ladhron, actually, what came to my mind was the number of homeless populations that we're seeing, and some of my beloved students and mentees are on the front lines, making meals and doing things for those who don't have at this time, or working with children. And it's a very difficult perspective that we're given on. And I remember Angelus used to say about how, we are judged, countries are judged on how they treat their poor, their elderly, and their sick. And we've been flunking that test really badly for a while. And so I know for myself that that my prayers are going there to, under the bridge, under the I-5 bridge. There's a lot of people, and so my prayers are going there. My energy so I try to, really acknowledge that suffering, and that I am I am not, I have my groovy 1960s apartment. It's really fabulous. I'm so grateful. It's really great. I'm so happy. The Great Spirit has given this to me, So I think, and when it comes to easing the suffering, I mean, I think Creator is the only one who can do that for us. But we also have to have, like, I think it's that ability to bring our invisible ideas, these things that are in our heads, to our hearts enough to bring them into practice and to do something that will, Sun Bear said, if it doesn't grow corn, I don't want to hear about it. It needs to grow corn. And so, how do we ease this suffering, and how do we notice that just how much disparity that we have, and the race issues that have been there for so long at a systemic level, that are everything is in high visibility. And so I feel so much about how we're able now to see clearly in many ways.
Well, some of us are.
Yeah.
And, you know,
And,
and as I shared with you yesterday, and I live in an area where people don't see.
oh yeah, you were talking to me about that.
Yeah, and that's a reality. Is sometimes we can live in an area where we live with people who are so similar to us that we don't realize why people who are outside of our world or our bubble think differently, have different experiences, different realities, and different needs, and different fears and different dreams. So there was something that you said a moment ago about the homeless, and I was reminded of something, and I don't remember if it was Angela's who said this or somebody else. It might have been one of my other